I'm thinking of titling this video, "We Don't Need Another Hitler," just because of the interest that would generate, although it would be slightly misleading as far as what I'd be, the points that I would be making, and also, I don't know, some people might just respond to the title without watching the video, which is always frustrating. But anyway, we'll see what I end up titling this video. What I want to talk about for the next few minutes, I'm not gonna go on for too long about this. I just don't feel like doing an incredibly long form video here. So you're not gonna have to deal with me for that much longer. But I do want to expostulate on a particular subject, and that is, well, I've been embracing this notion that I call esoteric 1933ism. I don't know whether it's going to catch on or not, but I want to say right here, I'm the one who came up with this notion, with this tag, with this title, esoteric 1933ism. We've had esoteric this, esoteric that. There's been esoteric Hitlerism, and I'm not a Hitlerist either, esoteric or non-esoterically, but I am an esoteric 1933ist. And what I mean by that in the plainest of terms, and I intend to talk more about this in the future, or to write about it more, is that if we see a parallel between the advent of Weimaria, what's called Weimaria, and the actual Weimar days, or Weimar, if you want to pronounce it in the Germanic way. I'm just gonna pronounce the W part. If you do that, if you see the obvious parallels between the Weimar Republic days and Weimarica, then, whatever you think about the NSDAP, whatever you think about Addie and the boys, you do, at least metaphorically, at least esoterically, see that the Weimarica age coming to an end is a consummation devoutly to be wished. And since 1933 was when the Weimar Republic came to an end, what we seek is something similar. We want to create changes in our culture that will result in a repeat of what 1933 was in Germany, insofar as it marked the end of this degenerate age that was the Weimar Republic. That's not to say that one necessarily thinks that the regime that took over in 1933 was good. You can say that it's good, or you can say that it's bad, or you can say anything in between. But I think it's fair to draw a metaphorical comparison, whatever one thinks of that regime, and that's what I am doing, with my notion of esoteric 1933ism, which I'm going to be you'll be hearing more about if you tune in, or if you tune in more. It's going to be more something I write about, because it's a headier kind of thing than it is, than I think is really good than for me to just come on and try to fumble incoherently, about like I'm doing, just flap my my vocal cords incoherently the way that I'm doing right now. I want to talk about it in a more formal sort of way than that. But anyway, the reason why I either did or didn't title this video, "We Don't Need Another Hitler," is because I want to draw a parallel, one parallel that I see between our the current state of things in America and a country in the past is actually not so much Germany, even though Weimerica is I think an apt term, given that the Weimar Republic was, as I said, a time marked by cultural degeneracy that needed to come to an end. But I think a more apt comparison is to Spain and the years leading up to the Spanish Civil War. Let me also say here that I don't want to see a civil war. I really don't. I really hope and pray that it will not come to that. And some of you might think I'm naive for saying that, but I'm going to hold out all hope that the changes that need to be made will be made without there having to be something terribly awful like a second civil war. Which if you're a young man and you've got nothing to lose, maybe you're just jonesing for the new civil war to start. I'm not a young man. I've got 2 children. You can't blame me for wanting there not to be a civil war. But you also can't blame me for wanting to see our culture change, because our culture is shit right now, and it's only getting shittier. The momentum seems, even though there are some, of course, trends that are salubrious, the people who are in charge of the culture are the ones who are pushing us further and further into the abyss. So this is something that, again, I see a parallel with Spain in the days before the Spanish Civil War, because what you had back then in Spain was a situation where the left-leaning forces, the communist friend, they weren't all communist, of course, but they were at least communist friendly or willing to ally themselves with communists. Some of them were social liberals or I can't remember the term for it right now, but just socialist leaning, social democrats was the term I was trying to search for. If you were a social democrat, you were left leaning, but not communist, but you were maybe thought that the anti-communist people were just got way too bent out of shape about communism, and that maybe communism wasn't really so bad, but you were still not a communist, right? So there were social democrats, there were anarcho-syndicalists, there were Trotskyites, and there were Stalinists. These were all different factions of the left that took over Spain in the early part of the 30s. Now the left won an election. I put that in quotes, the election of 1936, but used many underhanded means, and were generally very skullduggerous in the way they went about, controlling the process by which they won. And that was the final straw. That was what, just to simplify things, that was what got the forces of the right, which consisted of the Falange, people who were Spanish fascists, the Carlists, who were Catholic monarchists, and I can't remember the names of the other groups, but eventually they all coalesced around Franco. Franco led the charge. It was part of what would be called the rebel movement, but that's kind of misnomer because they were rebels who were seeking to restore the traditional Spain that they loved, that was being butchered daily by these people on the left. They burning down churches, blaspheming Catholic ceremonies, killing priests and nuns and monks, and doing all manner of horrors to the church. This was part of what inspired the response that was the Francoists who fought back against the leftists who had taken over by, again, skullduggerous means. And what we see today is that the left is prone to do whatever it takes to hold on to power no matter what. And that's something that cannot be just, we can't just let that stand. We can't just allow these people who are pushing this agenda that is anti everything decent, who are promoting things like Drag Queen Story Hour, who are promoting things like making it mandatory for parents to allow their 6-year-old child to get genitally mutilated if he or she has been brainwashed by somebody who wants to see more and more children, more and more boys become girls and vice versa, and other things. Those are just the most egregious things that are going on right now in the West. This is a state of things that should not be allowed to stand through democratic or through undemocratic means. So, at some point, there will be a reckoning. Now, what I hope will happen, and I said this to somebody, I said this to a friend the other night. What I hope will happen will be something like what happened to the Soviets in the late 80s, when things, they opened up. There was somebody who took over. Gorbachev became the new premier, and was sponsoring greater openness, glasnost, perestroika, and then that just led to more and more pushes for more and more openness and more less and less repressiveness, until finally the empire collapsed without really that much violence, without that much bloodshed. Of course, there were hard times. There were very hard times after the Soviet Empire collapsed. But I would prefer to have that outcome than a bloody, protracted civil war, analogous to what happened in Spain. I would much prefer such an outcome. But I think that we can't tolerate the status quo. Things don't have to be perfect, but the way things are right now, it has to change. It simply has to change. By hook or by crook, it has to be, the change has to be made, because what we have today is worse than the Weimar Republic, than the terrible, disgusting, awful, degrading, degenerate practices that became de rigueur within many sectors of the Weimar Republic, especially Berlin, as I understand it. We've got that, but it's even worse. It's far worse. Far, far worse. That's why I'm an esoteric 1933ist, because we need to end Weimerica, just like the Weimar Republic came to an end in 1933. But I don't think we need another Hitler. I think, if necessary, what we need is another Franco. If it comes to that, we need somebody like Franco more than we do somebody like Hitler. Why do I say that? Well, Hitler succeeded in 1933, but then whatever you think of his regime, and I'm trying to stay neutral on the subject of the National Socialist regime, just for argument's sake here, I think that very few can maintain that Hitler made the right decisions in the latter part of the 12 years that the National Socialists held power. Invading Russia, getting involved in a two-front war, was just, there were a lot of extremely imprudent decisions that were made by Hitler. And Hitler won in 1933, but he obviously lost everything in 1945. And his country was the worse for it after 1945. And a lot of mischief started up after 1945, not just for Germany, but for the entire Western world. That was when certain trends started to run their course, and that the course has been that's been run over the last 75 years, 3/4 of a century, has got us where we are in 2024, and where we are in 2024 is intolerable to anyone with a properly formed conscience. So if necessary, and again, I devoutly hope that it's not necessary, I hope we have something happen. Hope there's a series of events that leads to a collapse of the deep state in the same way that the Soviet Empire collapsed in 1989. And suddenly people were jumping all over the Berlin Wall, and were allowed to enter and leave as they chose. I want to see something similar to that happen to the regime that currently holds sway, and to the ideology that currently holds sway. I'd like to see that happen. Barring that, the less palatable option of civil war, if that comes to pass, then we need a Franco-like character. Franco is a lot less sexy than Hitler. Franco was kind of a boring guy. He didn't make great speeches. He wasn't He wasn't nearly as interesting as Hitler. He wasn't nearly as compelling of a character as Hitler was. And when I say compelling, again, I don't mean that Hitler was good or that Hitler was bad, okay? Because I know there are people out there who feel both ways and everything in between, and I really don't want to get just sidetracked by that. I don't want to get sidetracked by that subject. Let's just be practical here. A man like Hitler took over Germany and brought it to prominence in like 1938 or so, but then after 1938, things went to shit, and he led his country into disaster. That is, even the most ardent Hitler-philes out there will have to admit that. Maybe some of you won't. Maybe some of you will stubbornly claim otherwise, but I don't think it can be denied. But what happened with Franco? Franco was a military leader, a stalwart. He helped he helped the traditionalists, the Catholic monarchists, or whomever it was, the faction and the different factions that made up the right that opposed the left-wing regime that had taken over by dubious quote-unquote electoral means. He fought the Civil War, led them to the Civil War, won the Civil War in 1939, and then never lost. Hitler won, and then he lost terribly. Franco won and kept on winning and kept Spain free from negative influences until the day of his death in 1976. So I mean that's a far better track record. 1939 to 1976. That's it's too bad that he wasn't able to pass it on to somebody else who could keep it going after that. But that's a whole lot better than just a measly 12 years. So that's why I think we don't need another Hitler. We need another Franco. Again, if it comes to that. Let me know what you think in your comments below. But if your comments, if in your comments you indicate that you haven't really listened to anything I've said, but are just responding to the title, then I will feel free to delete those comments. Just saying.